episode 35 of your stereotypical podcast. If you can't see this, I have the wonderful, lovely Meredith Meisbach and Crysta Glenn with me. Both of these ladies work with me at Nike Portland, and I'm going to say they were like kind of a big sister role when I first got there, because when you guys met me, I was a hot mess. Like I was always cutting up, doing just doing all kinds of wild stuff. So
I think we all were.
Yes. Well, that's being
yes,
20
I agree
something,
with
right?
that.
Being in your 20s is definitely rough sometimes. So thank you guys for joining me. Some of the topics here are super important, I think near and dear to you guys more so than me. So I'm glad you guys joined me for this. Firstly, I want to say, oh man, DMX, RIP DMX, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was not what I was expecting this week. I think he's a very misunderstood human being, and I think some of the music he was making when we were in middle school and high school, just really, really great music, and went platinum God knows how many times. But the man was very misunderstood. So rest in peace to him. And if you have a chance this weekend, or excuse me, this week, play some DMX and just remember him for the person he was and the joy he tried to bring. So
absolutely,
RIP to DMX.
RIP.
RIP. I have actually, if I can, just a kind of a funny story. When I was 12, my brother was about 4 years older than me. So he was just learning to drive. So he was able to take me in the car with him. And he would always pull out his big book of CDs and let me pick what music we listened to. And it was either Master P, Blackstreet, or DMX. So
can't go wrong with any of those.
Yeah. Those are all great choices. And honestly, I just lost my headphone for those that can't see. And honestly, it's funny because like I think in the moment, like DMX and like Ja Rule and Nelly, those guys were all so big, but you had this like juggernaut of Jay-Z just kind of eclipsing all of them. So like they didn't really even get their flowers like they should have, because you have Jay-Z, which is still a relevant name today. So yeah, that's a tough one for everybody. You got any fun DMX stories, Crysta? Any
None specifically, but just always love listening to his music and realizing, like you said, he was very misunderstood, but that's what made him him and unique. And I think I told somebody yesterday or today that he was one of a kind. There's no one that was like him that came before him. No one like him when he was here, and then there's not going to be anybody like him again. So, like you said, rest in peace, and he'll be missed. He'll definitely be missed.
That's a great point, because there are very few artists in any genre that you see them and you're like, there is no one like that person, right? Like you see Prince, and there's people that have tried to be like him, they might have a little bit of his inspiration, but there's only one, like all the rappers out there. I don't care how loud you scream or yell or ad lib or whatever, there's not going to be another DMX. So that's a great point.
There's not.
All right. Well, on a lighter note, yesterday, Nike and the WNBA announced the new WNBA jerseys, and some of the inspiration behind them, and some of the stories are really cool. So I got something here for you guys to look at. I threw together. Tell me what you think. Those of you Okay, so those jerseys are so cool, right? Like, the inspiration behind them. That Hawkins, the Indiana one with Stranger Things.
Yep.
That one to me with the speckles on there, I'm just like, we could do that one, and we don't got to worry about any of the other ones. For real.
Right. So dope. I mean, I can't pick a favorite. I really can't. And to think about the 25th anniversary of the WNBA and those jerseys coming out when they did, and this year, I almost can't even like put into words. It's crazy to think about. Long overdue, I think, and much deserved. So I'm super excited. And like I said, I can't choose my favorite. I can't choose a favorite.
I've got to go with my girl Sabrina in that New York Equality jersey. But yeah, I think it's going to be great just for the women's game in general. It's already, creating the chatter and the talk. It's going to bring more attention, hopefully more viewers, more revenue, how that all kind of works. So I think it's a really good, I don't want to say start because I've definitely already started in this direction, but it's a good way to keep moving forward.
Definitely.
That's a really good point, guys. So where do you guys see the WNBA over the next decade? Because I think when it first started, there were probably some people out there that were kind of like, really, like we're doing this, and now to see it 25 years in, and to see, you go from like a Lisa Leslie or Cheryl Swoops to now we got, all these big names. I feel like, I mean, I see some of these players, and like you said, Sabrina Ionescu, all these great players, and like, how do you see this going over the next decade or so?
Yeah, I think the only way to go is up. And like you said, seeing how far it's come from where it started, the players that have come along the way, my favorite player being Lisa Leslie, and just how the game is now and the momentum that's happening now. I think the only way to go is up. I think getting more viewership, sponsorship and all of that good stuff, and awareness of the game, awareness of the league, those big name faces getting out there and showing face and all of that. I think the only way to go is up, and I'm super excited to see where it goes, and huge fan of it. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that stands out to me now is women are feeling more empowered to speak out. And I think that's really had a huge impact on the WNBA. And it's getting the attention of more than just the average fan. Those words are really cutting through a different group of people. And especially given what's going on in the world right now, I think people are looking for things to get behind. And as long as these women keep speaking out and keep, being their powerful selves, I think it's just going to keep going in the right direction. Like you said, Crysta, it's just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I wish more people would kind of get on board with. And I'm talking men, I'm talking to you specifically because you guys are the worst at this, and myself included. Just because, and Meredith spoke to this the first time she was on this podcast, but just because you don't enjoy a woman's sport or a lady sport doesn't mean that you have to kind of shit on it. And I think a lot of times we look at it as like, oh, this is, less athleticism, less explosiveness. It's not as exciting. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you get across this? Because most of these people saying this are not, and I don't think I have some athletic prowess by any means, but most of these people haven't even played varsity basketball in high school. So like, how are you sitting in your armchair, playing point guard, telling these women that, oh, you're not as good an athlete because you have Y, or because you don't have Y chromosomes? Like, that makes no sense to me. So I think that's the hard thing, is like, if you could say one thing to a young male about how they can be more supportive to their female counterpart, what would that be? I'll start with you, Meredith, and then Crysta will kick it over to you, because I'm curious to hear what that piece of advice would be like for them.
I think growing up and playing sports, even being one of the girls that would play sports at recess, guys would always want to take it easy on me, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted them to bring it. So just because I'm a girl at recess doesn't mean that you have to play me differently than all of your guy friends. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing for me that I can think of is just, treat me the same as you would anybody else. Whether it's at recess or college ball or whatever it is, just treat me the same. I don't want anything different.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Growing up playing with the boys, and I love playing with the boys. I feel like it made me tougher and all of those good things. But I did notice that also. It's like there'd be some that would take it easy on me and didn't want to hurt me, or you know what I mean, like barely even want to touch me, like that sort of thing. But there were also some that like, you know what, you gonna play with us? Okay, look, we gonna let you have it. We gonna treat you just like one of the boys. And so I respected that. So I would say to them to just kind of step outside of your comfort zone. I know it's not easy, but at the same time, like, give it a chance. Give women's sports a chance. Step outside of what you are normally used to, if that makes sense. So, that would be my piece of advice, to just give it a chance. Why not?
That's great, and I'm glad you guys touched on that, because I remember growing up, there were a couple of girls on the basketball team at like even the high school level that I knew in the off season, like they were going to come, because we hooped on base because we were right next to Fort Lewis. So I knew they were going to come hoop because they lived on base, and because they didn't want to go play against, some of the girls that are in the area, because they didn't feel like they were getting enough of that competition and like getting beat up and all that. And like, it's funny because I remember those two girls going D1 like right out of high school. And I always remember seeing guys like look at them funny when they come out there, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna watch what happens. Okay, go ahead, let her shoot. Yeah. So they're like, oh, I'm gonna play all soft, and I'm not gonna, play defense hard on this person or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. You're about to be off the court real quick, because they're not gonna take it easy on you. And because one of the things that you guys probably attest to is that puts a chip on your shoulder right off the bat, because you're like, oh, you're treating me like I'm not competition, and I'm gonna show you right now, like, you need to be concerned with me.
Yeah.
So that's great you guys said that, and obviously having played Division I sports yourselves, we're going to dive into that experience a little bit, but I think that probably was helpful for you guys, was going up against guys and kind of, I don't want to say toughening you up, but playing against tougher competition that obviously physically you're not going to get that same competition or that same kind of like physical competition in season. So having that opportunity out of season is probably something you guys look forward to. So kind of transitioning from that, what was your guys' experience like going out of high school into Division I sports? Because I know, Meredith, you played softball. Crysta, you played college ball, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you started at JUCO and then went D1. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was your guys' experience like with that? Let's start with Crysta, and then we'll kick it over to you, Meredith, right after.
Yeah. And so you hit it on the head. I started out at JUCO. So coming out of high school, first of all, let me go back a little bit. I didn't start playing organized basketball until 8th grade. So growing up with brothers, we'd play, of course, like here, wherever we could play, we play. But as far as like organized on a team, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't start until 8th grade, right? So fast forward a little bit, graduate high school, do well throughout high school. I think I played university a year or two, then went up to varsity. I wasn't heavily recruited. I had a couple schools in mind that I was dead set on. I feel like at the time, looking back, I didn't fit into a box. I didn't fit into a specific position that they wanted at the time. I felt like I could do a little bit of everything. But I just didn't fit in a box, I don't think, for them. And so with the JUCO route, I was lucky enough to get a call from a JUCO in Kansas. So I made my way out there and did a couple years there. And then from there, I went over to Southeast Missouri State. And I mean, overall, it was a great experience. I wouldn't change it for anything. Not only was it a great experience sports-wise, but you make friends that have become lifelong friends, and so super grateful for that. And like I said, I wouldn't change a thing about my journey so far. So
that's really cool. Firstly, thank you for sharing, and second, I played JUCO ball, and I know that's a grind. Like, that's not And you were in Kansas. Kansas? That has to be culture shock because you're from San Diego, right?
Man,
Yeah.
I can't count how many times I got that question. You know, why'd you come to Kansas from San Diego? I'm like, look, one reason only. Look, one
Hey,
reason.
good for you though. That probably kept you focused though, I bet. Because for me, it was like, I'm out the house. Like, what? Like, so good for you for doing that because that's not an easy route to go at all. I'm glad that you had that experience because I know a lot of people that, you know, it's just a mixed bag. It just depends on the person a lot of times too. So I'm glad that the JUCO route didn't deviate you from your path because that's not an easy route to take. But it sounds like you were not afraid of the hard work and that grind. So good for you.
I was just gonna say, like, I wasn't afraid to take the road less traveled, and I'm still not. That's kind of my MO in life is like taking the road less traveled, and you know, grinding and getting to where I want to be eventually. But like, you know what? I'll take this route. You know, not too many people do, but you know, it gets me to where I want to be. So definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Meredith, how was your experience kind of transitioning through high school and up through college?
Yeah, it was. So I guess I'll start. I started playing softball. I mean, before I could even play organized softball, I was, like I mentioned earlier, I have an older brother. He was into baseball, so I was following him around the whole time, going to his practices and grabbing a bat and swinging it. And so pretty much from day one, that was my thing. And then I started playing, of course, you know, went into T-ball and Little League and all of that. Started playing in ASA, which is kind of like AAU, but for softball. So I started playing that when I was, I want to say 12. And really that was just my big focus. I did play a little bit of basketball through middle school. And then once I got to high school, I just wanted to focus on softball. So I ended up starting on varsity my freshman year in high school, and played on some travel teams. My last travel team I actually played on was up in Seattle. So every weekend I was driving up to Seattle with my dad for fall ball. And for the most part, it didn't matter because it was travel ball. So it wasn't just in Seattle. We were going somewhere else. So let's see, high school finished up. I got first team All-State catcher, which was crazy. But even that being said, I was also not heavily recruited, just as you were, Crysta. And I think the big thing with me was, those of you that don't know me, I'm 5'3.5" on a good day. And especially D1 schools want to see you at least 5'5" behind the plate. So, and I was a catcher. So going through travel ball, talking to coaches, talking to people recruiting, they all said, yeah, you're really good, but you're probably going to have to go D2. And so I kept hearing that. And it was like, okay, I'm going to prove y'all wrong. I'm going to go D1 somewhere. So when it came down to it, my two final choices were between Portland State and Sonoma State, which is in California and wine country. And hindsight, maybe. But I ended up going to Portland State. I wasn't ready to leave home yet. I love Portland. My family's here. I was just excited to be here, have my family come to the games, and be in the city that I love. Getting to Portland State, it was a huge transition. Even though it's in my home city, just going from high school ball to college ball. I mean, and both of you can attest to this, it's a whole nother level, regardless of where you go, it's a whole nother level. And very honestly, I played 1 year at Portland State. It was a shit show. There was a lot of drama, but there was some drama between the coaches and the players, between the players and other players.
Are there dorms at Portland State? Like, did you live on campus?
I did. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I lived on campus. And I had a few kind of not mishaps, but misfortunes, I guess, during the year. I hurt my back going into it, and then I got mono, and there were just a few things, and lost my starting spot because of it, and just a bunch of stuff. So, and the coaches just didn't seem like they were on my side. So I ended up calling it quits after the year was over. And looking back on it, I think a lot of it, you know, I did want to prove people wrong that I was capable of going D1. But I think at the end of the day, you really just have to go with what's right for you. And yes, Portland State location-wise was right for me, but maybe Sonoma State was the better choice for, you know, overall fit and things like that. So I don't know how all these 18-year-olds decide what they're going to do, like where they're going to go to college. You know, I tell people I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. You know, so like looking back, I don't know how you're supposed to make those decisions, but you know, you go with what you think is right and hope it works out. And also at the same time, I don't regret it. After I stopped playing softball, that is 3 weeks later, I got a job at Nike, and that's where I met you two. So, and a bunch of other great people that we're still in touch with, and that's been invaluable. So, yeah, that's my story.
It's funny how that works out, because sometimes, like in that moment, you were probably heartbroken and crushed, and also didn't know kind of where to go next. Because speaking from my experience, I had no idea what to do when I got done. Like after that, you know, year and a half, 2 years at Green River, I was like, I don't know what to do. I was working at Finish Line. I was playing video games like 5-6 hours a day, sometimes more. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm used to having like practice and then study hall, and then you go home and you're tired and you eat and you go to bed and you just do it over and over and over. And so it's like I think you get sick of it sometimes. I mean, some people get sick of it, and I got sick of it. Mm-hmm. Like I hated it. It turned into a job, and I wasn't having fun. And I think, you know, speaking from our experiences, you guys probably had very successful high school careers. Obviously, you were all-state, Meredith. Crysta, you were getting recruited by places, obviously not the places you wanted at first, but, you know, having a successful like high like that, and then to get to this next thing, and you're like, damn, this is not what I thought it was at all. Like to, you know, kind of have that reality check of like, sometimes it looks one way, and then when you get there, it's another thing. Yeah. And when I was younger, I was pissed. I was like, I failed. I'm a failure because I didn't do this thing I said I was going to do, and I put my whole life into this. And it's like, hold on, you have all this life in front of you, and you're focused on the front, you know, the first 3 holes of the course, and you have 15 more holes to go. Mm-hmm. So that was a hard thing for me to come to terms with and kind of deal with. And I think as athletes, we all are very competitive naturally, and it's just kind of built in us, and we don't want to, I don't want to say admit defeat, but we don't want to like go with this other plan because this is the thing we said we were going to do, and we have to do it. Otherwise we're a failure. Yeah. So, you know, I think is having these different stories, all 3 of us is very cool. And I think Meredith, your experience, I can definitely relate to more than Crysta's, because I didn't have a good experience playing college sports like that. So I'm happy for you, Crysta.
I also, I was going to mention that if you didn't, but I've heard you say a couple times on this podcast that you hated basketball at that time, and I can totally relate to that. I hated softball. I did not even ask Portland State for my release so I could go explore other schools. I was just done. In fact, Sonoma State heard that I was not playing with Portland State anymore and reached out to me again and said the offer's still out there. And I was like, I don't want it. I'm done. Again, hindsight, should I have gone? Maybe, but no regrets. I'm here and happy. But it did take me a while even to get into like slow pitch. I totally play slow pitch now and I love it, but it's fun. So
yeah, you guys hit a interesting point. I think Ren, you said you got to a point where it wasn't fun anymore. And I tell kids now, even parents as well, like if you get to a point where it's not fun, it feels like a job, it feels like you're obligated to do it, like that's something to look into. That's something to, you know, think about when you get to that point. because you want it to be fun. You want it to be enjoyable. Even though it's tough, it's a grind, it's a challenge, you still want to be able to enjoy it in some way. And so if you don't, I think at that point it's something to definitely look at and figure out. But I think that was an interesting point you both made.
So here's something I see more and more of now, because I think I'm just paying more attention to it. But do you feel like sports as a kid has gotten, I don't want to say too competitive, but I think that's the only way to describe it. Like if you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and you go watch 8, 9, 10-year-olds play, there's always that one kid that you're like, Jesus Christ, like how is that kid, and it's like, okay, you understand kind of now how that's happening, because it's one thing if a kid's tall or if they're just really strong, but it's another thing entirely when you go watch a basketball game or a baseball game, and every time that kid goes to the plate, he's smacking a home run out of the park, or he's doing, it's like there's all these other things that parents are investing in. So do you guys feel like youth sports has gotten to the point where it's not made for kids who learn life skills necessarily, and it's made so that it could just be competitive and crank out the best product possible?
How about you go, Mary?
Yeah, I think, in baseball and softball terms, in Little League, I think at this point, from what I know, Little League is the lesser of the two between Little League or ASA, which is, like I said, kind of the AAU of softball. Or there's, I know there's a similar type of situation going on with baseball. I don't know what it's called, but those are the things that your parents who have money can put their kids in when they're young and just get them going from the start. And I think it does take away from just the good old days of just going to the ballpark, having a good time. The team moms bring the snacks at the end. Like it's more about going to have fun versus the competitiveness. And of course, you get someone like me who it was competitive and fun because I was never not competitive. But I look back and I'm thankful for my Little League days because it's definitely a different scenario than ASA travel ball. When you're investing that kind of money into your sport, even at 12, 13 years old, it's just a different level of passion and yeah, I think it definitely leaves some people at a disadvantage for, people who don't have that kind of money to put their kids into those sports, regardless of pure talent. It comes down to money at the end of the day. So, yeah, I would say short answer is yes, it does.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And I think you made a great point also that I think back then it was more so, it was fun and competitive, like at the same time, all at once. And I think it's leaning more, there was that balance, right? And so I think now it's more so on the competitive side. And where's the fun? Where's the life skills that you get in playing sports? Where are those things? And I do think it's leaning more towards competitive. And competitive to me is okay. I think there's a line though when it's overly kind of competitive where it's more so sometimes the parents that are like, you know what I mean? Like
100%.
Which in a way you can't blame them, but at the same time, I think there's I don't know, there should be a good balance of having fun and being competitive and getting those life skills that we all got when we were younger. So I do think there's a little bit of that these days.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
The parent thing is a great point.
It's a real thing. It's real.
Yep.
I would tell you, I've told this story before, and it was one where like my dad is heckling a ref in an 8th grade AAU game, and he hops in and throws the ref jersey on and refs the rest of the game, right? And I thought it was funny. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this dude was wilding out. Like he shouldn't have been doing all that at the 8th grade game. It was an AAU game, so it's super competitive, but at the same time, like, bruh, we're in 8th grade. Like, just relax. He really refed the whole game. But I mean, I've heard crazier stories than that.
Yeah.
And I think the parents are the ones that are like, banking on this kid being this like $1 million, thoroughbred racehorse. And like the reality of it is, some of these kids are just born with it. You can't. I mean, we've all played against somebody where you're like, damn, there's nothing I'm ever going to be able to do what that person just did.
It's like you can't teach some of that stuff. You can't teach it.
Yep.
It's just got like that scene in Friday Night Lights when they're in the weight room and the one dude looks at Booby Miles and he's like, Booby, you didn't lift. And he's like, I don't got to lift. This is God given. He just walks out like he wasn't lying. I mean, he was the best player on the field. So it ends up like that sometimes. And I think a lot of times it's unfortunate because the kids that are less athletic or that just want to have fun with their friends, they don't get that same opportunity. Once it gets to high school, I get it. Things change a little bit, but at least up until kids are around 13 years old, I mean, it should be something where it's fun for the kids and it's everybody's getting involved. And, you know, we had friends that weren't as athletic, but they were on the team and it was just fun to have them be a part of it and have that camaraderie. So those life skills of learning how to work through a situation with people that you might not necessarily love or the people you wouldn't pick to work through that situation with, that's what you have to do. And I think that translates to so many things. So I think girls especially get left out of that more than guys do because there's not as many, not as many opportunities in that way. So one thing I really applauded Kobe for doing when he was still with us was he could have taken a coaching job anywhere he wanted. He could have been a damn head coach if he really wanted to for any team for the most part. And he decided to put his time into sports with young ladies. And I think that's such an important thing because a lot of times as dads, we think, oh, our son, and we got to, our sons and this, that, or the other. And him kind of taking that on and doing that it inspired me. And I don't even have any kids. I have a lot of friends with daughters and all that. But at the end of the day, it's just about being a good person and making sure you're encouraging kids to stick with that and learn and grow and just have fun. Let kids be kids, because sports at the end of the day, that's what it's there for in the first place. So yeah, it's definitely a good point though. Those parents really take it another level. So yeah. All right. So we touched on the kids thing a little bit, and I kind of wanted to go back to the college thing real quick because I know you guys both saw that video from one of the ladies at the NCAA tournament. And
our Oregon Ducks lady.
Yes. And I apologize, I don't know her name, but I want to applaud her for being brave enough to post that and put that out there in the world because that deserved to be talked about. Because if you think a rack of dumbbells ranging in 5 to 20 pounds is enough to train a college athlete of any sport in any way, you don't know what you're talking about. So
Sedona Prince is her name, by the way.
Thank you.
You're
Can
welcome.
You say it one more time for the people in the back?
Sedona Prince. She deserves it.
Sedona Prince. Thank you very much. So do you guys feel like you had the same facilities and the same access as some of the male sports teams? Because we always talk about football, we always talk about basketball, but obviously we skip over some sports. So do you guys feel like you had those same opportunities to use the same kind of equipment and get that same attention that some of the male counterparts did in your organization at the school you were at?
I can answer that. I feel like for the most part, yes. I feel like we got the same access to the same facilities. And I think it helped that I played on successful teams, like at successful schools. And I think that played a part in that we got the same access and all of that. Now, things that I did notice was advertising, for example, marketing, for example, it was more so about the men's team. No matter where I was, whatever school, it was more so about the men's team and getting their face out there. And then it was the women come after that, or the women may not even be shown in some examples, but those are the areas that I definitely saw a difference in when I was coming up and playing in college. So,
yeah, for me, it's kind of hard to say, only because Portland State is not known for their athletics, and we all live here. We know this, so I think we all kind of got what we got. every team has a field, or besides the basketball team has a basketball court on campus. Every other team that I can think of has to go off campus to go to their field. Even the football team, they were at, what do they call the stadium now? It's changed names so many times.
The place where the Timbers play. I don't know what it's called, but the place where the Timbers play.
Right. Yeah.
They were there for a while, and now they're out at Hillsborough Stadium, which is now also where the softball team plays. We used to play on a field out in kind of like the east side of Portland. So it's like you go to practice, you have to meet at campus, you have to get in a van, you have to drive over to the field. Like it was a process. So in that sense, I think we all pretty much had the same. But again, I think to piggyback on the advertising thing, I wasn't necessarily thinking advertising, but the one thing I do think of is going to the football games and, of course, having friends on the football team and meeting up with them afterwards. And they're coming home with like 3 whole pizzas to themselves, like for their after game snack or meal or whatever. And I have like a 6-inch Subway sandwich, like. So there are definitely things going around, even at a school that's not known for their sports. So
that's I want to kind of stay on the marketing and advertising, because I think that spills over to professional leagues as well, because we hear all this stuff about the MLS and we're doing this, that, or the other. Men's soccer is terrible in this country. Like, I don't understand why we're having this conversation still about. And yes, I understand it's getting better, but at the same time, the women's team has how many gold medals? Like, how much talent there is on the women's U.S. soccer team that then is spread out to the I think it's WMLS. I don't know if that's what we're calling it, but the Professional Women's Soccer League, let's call it. Yeah. They don't put the same emphasis, and like we have the Thorns, and like I see a lot of people going to their games and stuff, so I'm like, how are they hearing about this? Because I think that's half the problem, is there's not as much emphasis on the marketing side of things in professional sports even. So how do we get to a point where we're being more equitable in this situation? Because a lot of times I feel like we see all these dope ads for LeBron and the Lakers and all these other teams that are men's teams, and that's great. But if we put that same emphasis on the WNBA, what would that result look like? And I'll touch on this real quick before I kick it over to you guys. The NBA started in the 40s. So when Magic and Bird came along, that was when the NBA really started gaining traction. Yeah. A lot of the things they did prior to that, they adopted a lot of ABA policies. They even absorbed 4 ABA teams. The 3-point line comes from the ABA. That wasn't something the NBA started. So it took them over 40 years to get to the point where now people are really, okay, Magic and Bird and then Jordan, and then it just takes off. The WNBA is only 25 years in, and I feel like they're in a better spot because they've already had a lot of legends come through, and they have this younger generation of women who aren't going to take that same shit that the women before them did, because now we have social media, we have all these other platforms. So what do you feel like it's going to take as far as marketing and investing is concerned to kind of get this ball moving in the right direction, to get that exposure that these ladies deserve?
Yeah. Man, you hit it on the head with that word exposure. And I think, people have to put their money where their mouth is, don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And that's putting the dollars into marketing, sponsorship, all of that good stuff. You have to put money behind that in order for it to move, in order for it to be successful. So like you said, exposure and putting the dollars where it counts, and really backing these players, the WNBA, and elevating them in a way that the NBA is elevated. And so I definitely have to say that. Put in the dollars where it counts, and that leads to exposure. So,
yeah. And I think the interest level is there. And I think I think this is the first year that the NCAA women's tournament, every single game was televised. on national broadcast, which was huge. And some of the women's games their numbers were beating some of the men's games, like just on, the teams that were playing. So it's not like people aren't going to watch regardless. Like the interest is there, and to just continue on that exposure. Like the more you expose, these women's games and you highlight them, I think more and more people are going to tune in. So.
Absolutely.
That is an excellent point, ladies. I didn't like vegetables until I met my wife, and then she started exposing me to vegetables, and now I eat vegetables all the time.
I remember you eating those lunches in the break room with no vegetables.
Yeah, super healthy over here, eating all that. Man, when I think about how much meat I used to eat, we can have a whole podcast about this stupid crap I did as a gym bro.
Rand?
You say what?
What's your go-to vegetables now?
Oh man, I love broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Man, we could get after pretty much anything. I don't like olives. I don't like pickles. Those kind of things, I'm out.
You're missing out.
I like peppers. I love pretty much any vegetable. Asparagus, broccolini, all that stuff. We can pretty much eat any vegetable in this house, and she knows. And I think she did it on purpose too, because she started like slow, like, okay, I'll get him to like peppers because he likes Mexican food. All right. Oh, try these Brussels sprouts at Matador. And then I'm like, I like Brussels sprouts. Before I know it, I'm like, man, I'm eating like 6 vegetables a day. What's going on over here? So, yeah, man, she got me on some other stuff over here.
Good for Taylor.
Yeah, shout out Taylor. And
good for me too. Shoot, I didn't even know I like vegetables like that until she got me on it. So thank you.
You didn't know until you tried it. And like we talked about before, it's like stepping out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? And doing those things outside the ordinary, and it turns out you like it. Look.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people to step outside their comfort zone because they get so set in their ways sometimes. And this is no different, but at the same time, like, this isn't one of those things where I'm willing to let people kind of sit it out. Like you're gonna look, you're gonna like see what's going on, and at that point, if you're not paying attention, your head's in the sand. Because I think all these ladies are incredible athletes, and they deserve the attention and time, the same attention and time as the men's league. Am I saying that? Okay, now these ladies should be making $35 million a year right now? No, but the opportunity for that should be there, and it shouldn't be taken away because there's a lack of advertising and foresight with the marketing. So I'm on the same page as you guys 100% on that one. If that makes me a feminist, then here we are, baby. I guess I'm a feminist because I'm here for you guys. So
being a feminist is not a bad thing. I just want to put that out there.
That part.
I don't think so either, man. Like I just see something and I can't not call it out. And like, I'm just because I don't have any skin in the game as a male, like that doesn't mean that I can't help fight that fight. So if I hear somebody say something stupid, or if I see somebody doing something wrong, like I should point it out just like everybody else. That would make me a total hypocrite because I come on here and tell people like, you need to be better all the time. And then if I don't do it, then I'm, part of the problem, not the solution. So
that's the thing about it is it's going to take all of us to elevate, these women's leagues and teams. And it really is going to take everyone to make that happen. So you hit a good point on that.
Thank you. And yeah, I appreciate you guys sharing those thoughts on that because it's more important. I think it carries more weight coming from you guys than it does for me. And again, like that's the whole point of this thing is to just be able to give you guys a space or anybody a space that needs it and needs to get their voice heard, who maybe people aren't hearing it. I think having that opportunity to say like, there's something going on over here that you should pay attention to is what I'm trying to do here. And I think, you guys you guys carry a lot more weight with it than I do. So I appreciate y'all being brave enough to say that because it's not an easy thing to do, to speak up and kind of go against the grain. But I mean, that's half of the problem with this is, we have this ideology in America that like we'll look down on another culture for the way that they treat women, but then like we're kind of doing the same thing and it's just more hidden. And I think that's the hard thing to understand for some. It's like just because just because I'm not forcing you to wear a burqa and you can't not letting you vote doesn't mean that you don't have some type of oppression going on with that group. So do you guys have any ways that men can get more involved with not just sports but in general trying to help, women and elevate them and make sure that they feel heard and equal and on the same ground as everybody else.
I'll let you go, Meredith.
Yeah, I think just holding yourself accountable. Like, you can see something and let it slide, or you can see something and do something about it. And I'll use, Crysta, one of your phrases, put your money where your mouth is. Like, it's not necessarily all about money, but if you see something, say something, tune into a women's game every once in a while. Tell your friends about it. Maybe have them over and have a little card night and have a women's game on. I think doing the little things add up. So it starts there.
Yep, I agree with all of that. And I think just support. So, and that could look different for different people, right? I think turning on a game, turning on a women's game, watching it, going to a game, supporting, a family member, a friend, talking about it, letting your voice be heard. Just however support looks to that person, I think support is huge. And I think it's something, like you said, the little things in that add up and really do make a difference. So I think however you can support is a big deal. So I would start there.
That's well said. Yeah, I mean, having that conversation is not easy sometimes, or starting that, but I think I'll use my wife, I'll use Taylor as an example. Excuse me. She, having these conversations ongoing about like race and how you deal with that in America is not an easy thing, especially with your significant other, but I'm in a good place because she's receptive to it and open to the conversation versus having someone who's just combative the entire time. Mm-hmm. So I think it's big for people to open their ears and relax and kind of let their guard down some. I know it's difficult, but if you do that and you open yourself up to the opportunity, I mean, like we said with vegetables, who the hell knows where that takes you? I mean, I went from peppers to asparagus and Brussels sprouts. I mean, the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say. So we're on pace with that.
And I think so. One more thing is just like, be real with guys out there. Check your egos. Like,
that part.
That's it.
So it's funny you mentioned checking your ego, because I have another little video for you guys to watch. This is one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen athletically. She's a Olympic long jumper apparently, and I think these hurdles are like 36 or 42 inches. So I think you guys might know what I'm talking about, but I'm gonna roll the video here for you, and I don't think there's any sound, so just bear with me. Okay, so for those that can't see at home, we just watched the video of an Olympic long jumper doing tuck jumps over hurdles. There were 10 hurdles set up, and she just boom, 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 right over all 10 of them in a row. No stop, no pause, anything.
Just bunny hops.
Just bunny hops, right. I would challenge anybody. I don't care how athletic you think you are. Go get 4 36-inch hurdles and jump over them and take a video of yourself and send it to me. If you do that, I will be very impressed, and then I will try to do it afterwards. But I promise you are not going to do it as smoothly as that
graceful,
finely tuned machine just did it. That is incredible. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. Like, talk about athletically gifted and somebody who obviously had to work her ass off because she's in the Olympics several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how men can say that women are less athletic. I think it's just a relativity thing. We're talking about absolute, obviously, like, yes, in an absolute scale, men are stronger, but relatively, if I'm 250 and I can only bench press my weight 1 time and you're 130 pounds and you could bench press that 10 times, relatively, you are stronger than me. And that's how we have to look at things. You can't measure ladies' athleticism the same way you would a male's, because you're looking at obviously 2 different playing fields. And that doesn't mean that they're less tough. And like we said, go watch a game, because when I was watching Baylor play UConn, that was one of the toughest knockdown games I've ever seen. And the defense on Baylor's end, the fact that they didn't win that game, I mean, on that call, that was a terrible call, but great game.
Don't get me started on that game. That was one of the games I was just like, Oh, I was heartbroken for them. And I hate to say that it came down to that call, but that was that call, or that non-call, I should say, was tough.
I think she got fouled by 2 or 3 different players in that, not just one. I think there are a few fouls they could have called.
Yeah. And even a few plays prior to that one, there were some questionable non-calls throughout the game, I think, that really could have made a difference. So tough game, but overall, I think it was a great tourney, great men's and women's, and to think about like the the adversity they had to overcome and throughout the season with COVID and tough year. I think they played a really great tournament overall, though. So really good games.
What was cool about it to me was usually when you see the women's tournament, you see like the same, the usual suspects in the Final Four, like the UConn, the Baylors, right. And to have like Arizona get there and like be a bucket away from winning, that's really good for women's basketball in general.
Yeah.
So seeing that was really fun. And also I got to say, like, I'm going to call Arizona a West Coast team, but 2 Pac-12 West Coast teams in the final. Come on. That's crazy. So that was really cool.
I don't want to bring the men into it too much in this episode, but both tournaments, the Pac-12 really showed out.
Yep.
Yes, they did. That UCLA. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I know we ain't talking about men's too much, but that UCLA shot was that was crazy. I can't believe he made that. But that was terrible for them because they rode that emotional high, and Baylor had a chip on their shoulder the whole game. They're like, y'all said they're better than us, and we're about to show you why they're not.
Yep.
Man. You mean the Gonzaga shot?
Yes, Gonzaga shot. Thank you. Yeah. I felt heartbroken for UCLA because I was like, man, y'all weren't even supposed to be there. I'm saying that in air quotes because they deserved it. So that was crazy. But the tournaments were both great. So,
right,
man, hopefully next year we can get back to a little bit of normalcy and there can be some fans there. But the way we're doing things right now, I ain't holding my breath.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, this is the portion of the show where we all come together around kicks. So I'm going to kick it over to you guys. I don't know who wants to start first.
I'm actually going to go first because I know Chris is going to blow me out of the water. I don't want to end this on a low note. So,
all right, Meredith, let's go ahead and see your top 3.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this with I moved a couple times over the last year and got rid of a lot of stuff, including a lot of shoes. So it's not necessarily my top 3. This is the top 3 that I have in my closet right now. So first we're going practical.
Yes.
3 4.0s, the white and black. I wear these like every day, but definitely at least once a week. Just a super comfy, but stylish. I remember when they first came out, I put them on and I was like, I have to get these. Like there's no putting these back. I just have to get them. So,
those changed the game. Those right,
really did
the game in running.
They really did. They were the first. So there were like the 5.0s and the 3.0s for a while, and then came the 4.0, and it was just a game changer.
Game over.
Next we're going again practical, stylish, but for a different season.
I love that color.
Sneaker boots. I wear these all the time in the winter. They're my go-tos. Again, obviously super comfy. It's got the Air Max bottom, and it's got a little of a mid upper. They're winter weather resistant, not proof, but they're go-to, stylish and comfy. And then my last one, kind of the last heat that I have left.
Ooh. Yes.
3-month girls, Jordan 1 mid.
Those.
Yeah, I picked these up. There's a little Black History Month on there. I'm one of the lucky ones that wears a size 8.5 women's, 7 kids, 7 men's, so I could squeeze in if I really wanted to. But I picked these up and I've hung on to them for a reason. They're just special to me for what they represent, and clearly I like just the black and white clean colorways, and this one just it's something I'll probably hang on to forever. So
it's like you used to work at Nike or something with all those Nikes over there.
Yeah. Weird how that happens.
This is one of the funnest things of this whole experience is seeing it because I haven't seen two of the same shoe yet, and like I thought, oh, I'm about to get a gang of Jordan 11s and like Air Force Ones, and I haven't gotten two of the same shoe yet. So I have no idea what you guys have when I do this. So this is always fun to see.
So I was going to mention something else, just because I wanted to get a live reaction from you guys. So in the middle of moving, and this was like right when COVID was happening, so I'm like trying to get rid of stuff before everything closes down. Speaking of Jordan 11s, I had my Concords, and guess where they went? They went to Buffalo Exchange.
Wow, that is a blasphemous statement right there from Meredith, folks. I don't know what to say to her.
No.
I know. They were a kids pair, again, size 7. And I didn't wear them anymore. I needed to get rid of stuff, and I got like $65 from them from Buffalo Exchange, and that was probably about what I paid when I paid, with my employee discount. So yep, that happened. So whoever picked those up probably the very next day, you are welcome.
Yeah, no kidding. They probably got them for like $1.10 too at Buffalo. Wow.
Right. Oh my God.
Crazy.
Also, I thought you accidentally put it in the pile that's going to, but it was like perfect.
Oh, that was a conscious decision that I made.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Wow. I mean, hey.
Well, before we jump over to Crysta, I'll share with you guys too. I sold 3 pairs of Kobe's last week.
Whoa.
I know. And I love my Kobe's. Here's the thing.
Ooh.
I wasn't wearing them. The Kobe 8 has a really cool upper, but the like Lunar Lawn midsole that drops in, it squeaks so bad. The foam gets compressed. Like I weigh 245. That's not made for me, So like I have my Kobe 5s and 4s and stuff back 6s somewhere in here.
Okay, so you still have some Kobe's. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's certain Kobe's like they're never leaving. Like I got that. You guys remember when we won that contest and we got to ID a pair of shoes?
Oh yeah.
For free? Yeah, I got them. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Right there in that box, and I won't get rid of them because it's a special pair. So yeah, I had to get rid of some Kobe's last week. So Meredith, don't feel too bad if you're not wearing them. Hey, I'm glad somebody else got them.
Like when I was working at Nike, I would wear them as our footwear. What do they call it? Free Footwear Friday or something, where we could wear whatever we wanted. And of course, I'm going to bring those out every once in a while. But other than that, like at this point, like I work in HR, like I don't have anywhere to wear them. So it is what it is.
Okay.
All right, Crysta, what you got?
Speaking of, I think you mentioned Jordan 11s. Had to bring out the classics. I had to. This is my favorite Jordan retro, the 11s. This is my favorite pair. Classic. I barely wear them, but at the same time, just knowing they're in there just warms my heart. Just
so let me see. Tilt it this way a little bit. Tilt it towards the camera a little bit. So that's the pair from 2012, or is that the recent one from 2019?
Oh, 2012.
Okay, because I was going to say I don't see the white liner on the top of that leather there, so I was like, I bet you that's from 2012.
Yep.
Nice. I love that shoe.
Great condition.
Right. Now this is my all-time favorite Nike shoe. This is the Presto. All white, clean. And then got them ID'd, of course. Got CG right there. The initials. Comfort, style, classic, just all of that in one shoe. It is my all-time favorite Nike shoe ever made. So it's one of my choices there. Prestos.
I love that shoe. I've tried to get a pair once or twice and it just never worked out. So I'm gonna have to get a pair eventually. But I love that shoe.
Absolutely. And then this one, it is a recent. I love Jordan 1s as well. Just the I'm at a loss for words. I just love them. Comfort, style, can't go wrong with the Jordan 1. So definitely one of my choices as my top 3 favorite shoes right now.
Nice.
And I can tell you haven't worn those yet.
Have not worn them.
She got that single lace at the bottom. Like she still got to lace them up. So that's how I knew. So for everybody out there, I'm not like some savant. I can just tell because the laces weren't laced up yet.
Yep.
So that's also, if you guys had one pair that you like wanted to get, but you don't have yet, is there anything out there right now for you, that one pair that you're like, I got to get that one?
Man.
I will say that something that recently came out that's not a Nike shoe. It's the other guys, Adidas. My guy Dame came out with a Rose City pair of Dame 7s that were really speaking to me. So if I see them, I'm probably going to get them somewhere down the line.
Nice. The Dame line, they've done a really good job with doing some different patterns and colors and stuff. I think some of these other sneaker companies, besides, obviously the Nikes, the Nike of the world, is they're stepping their game up. I bought a pair of New Balance last week.
Yep.
Like for running shoes. I tried on I was like, oh, I'm getting those Ultra Boost. I know it. They look dope. And then I put that New Balance on. And I was like, man, this is something else. I'm like, Taylor's looking at me like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm getting these New Balances. That's what I'm about. These are comfortable. So. Nice. How about you, Crysta?
I got to go with Nike. The Sakai's. Not sure if you both are familiar with them. They were one of the first colorways, like pink, yellow, green. And I know they're still out there somewhere, even though they came out a while ago, but that's one shoe that like honestly still haunts me that I didn't get. So I'm like, I got a pair of Sakai's, the all white ones, but that particular color I didn't get, and it still haunts me to this day.
All right, well, you have to find a pair out there. If I see a pair in your size, I'll have to figure out. I don't know what size you wear, so I have to ask you if I see a pair.
Yeah,
I'll let you know, because I'm always looking at stuff, but I'm not really buying very often these days. It's funny once you stop seeing the product every single day. You're like, I don't really. Those are cool, but I don't need those.
I don't need it yet. That's growth right there, Ren. Look, I like it. I don't need it.
This is what you see behind you is pretty much it. Like I have probably 40 pairs of shoes now, and it was a lot more. So I sold a lot of them to pay for our wedding, to help pay for our wedding, because the damn sure didn't pay for the whole thing. So I did that, and I never thought twice about it. The whole time she's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Yes, I'm sure. Like, and I don't regret it at all, because a lot of them I wasn't wearing anyway. So it's like, I hope somebody else is beating the hell out of them and getting enjoyment. So, well, since y'all shared your guys' pair that y'all want that you don't have, I'll throw one out there that I want that I don't have, because I don't think I've done that yet. I'm gonna do it, and I know it's gonna be super expensive. I'm gonna get a pair of game worn autographed Kobe's. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna put it in a case. I might seal it, like air seal it and all that, or vacuum seal it, and like put it in my office when we buy a house and all that, because I don't know. To me, I just think having a pair of shoes that the man himself actually wore in a game, when you look at that, if that doesn't motivate you as a athlete, I don't know what will. So I think just seeing that every day when I walk into my office to work will just be that extra little like kick of like, okay, it's time to clock in. Let's do this. So that'll be something I'll spend.
I don't think anybody can tell you not to do that.
Right. I support that decision.
Well, there's one person that could tell me not to do it, and she's sitting in my living room right now.
She's not gonna argue. She better not argue with you, though.
No, she won't argue, but she'll be like, look, our money better be right. If you're spending $4,000 or whatever it is on a pair of game worn Kobe, so it'll be a little while before we do all that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more hesitation before I spend money on shoes now. So
there's a time and a place, but it will happen.
Yes.
That's right. So do you guys have any projects or anything you guys have been working on during COVID, or things that you're excited about that you have going on? Meredith, I know you kind of been doing some cooking and like some recipe tweaking online. And I want to kind of come to you and talk about that a little bit. Crysta, do you have anything you kind of been doing that you want to talk about that you're excited?
You know what? Self-care. It may not be a project per se, but just I'm really excited about finding things that make me feel good, that things that I can treat myself to. It could be something as little as going to the nail shop, getting my nails done, taking a mental break, listening to music. But just whatever it is, just I'm excited and have been excited during quarantine, especially in finding things that take care of me and make me feel good and make me happy and that sort of thing. So overall, it's definitely self-care for me. So,
amen to that.
Yeah,
super important. Super important. That's an ongoing project, I think, for everybody, because like we never get told like prioritize your mental health. Like I don't think we ever heard that until we were like full grown adults, and by that time it's like you're in this vicious cycle of a culture that doesn't prioritize it, or you're like, oh, you gotta you feel bad because you got to go to the doctor. You're like, I got to take time off to go to the doctor, and your boss is like, I need this thing done. It's like, bro, I'm trying to go get my blood drawn to make sure I'm not dying. Like, let me go do this. So that's really good that you've been doing that, because I think everybody could take a page out of your book and benefit from it. So kudos to you on that one. So Meredith, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start, putting yourself out there with kind of some of the recipes you've been doing and some of the food things you've been working on. Because I, from day one, was like, I know I saw you dabble in cooking long before that on Instagram and everything. So seeing you actually start putting yourself out there and doing it, I thought was really cool. So what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I just, I've been cooking with my mom ever since I could stand on a stool in the kitchen and help her dump the flour in or whatever it was. And just as I got older and living on my own, it was always something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed coming into the kitchen and I would think about something that I was, wanting to make or something that sounded good. And then I would find a recipe online. And then I found that I would usually not follow it to a T, just to kind of cater to my taste or what I was feeling that day. And so it's just kind of been something that I've done for a while, just in general, regardless of whether it's on Instagram or not. So I would kind of just randomly post some stuff that I've cooked on my regular Instagram page. And then, I had some friends and some people that, are on my side, just kind of gave me that little nudge. And even one of the little nudges was for a birthday present. I got some nice white Crate and Barrel dishes and like some things that I could like take nice pictures with and stuff. So I'm like, okay, if other people are noticing it that much to where they're getting me these things to encourage me to do it, then do it. Now it's COVID and we're stuck at home and there's nothing else to do. So what better time than now? I just created the page, and I'm definitely not as active on it at this point, only because for those of you that don't know me, I have a little 5-month-old golden retriever puppy, and it's hard to keep him occupied while I'm trying to make some dinner. So really quick and easy right now, but it will come back when I have a little bit more time on my hands. That's kind of where that all came from.
Love it.
Oh, go ahead, Crysta.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I love that. And if you need any taste testers, anything of that nature,
That's you.
That's so cool that's how that kind of came about. Because I think like sometimes we think about stuff or we like, oh, maybe I should try this, and then some little thing comes up that is that little push or that little like pinch to remind you, like, hey, you said you were thinking about this, like go try it. And speaking from personal experience with this thing has evolved in more ways than I thought it would over the last, since it started, with the change of hosts and all this other stuff. So like having something different and having that change, I think is something to look forward to, and to kind of like crack open a recipe book and be like, oh, I'm going to take this out or whatever, however your method is or whatever you do, I think is really cool. So I'm looking forward to you sharing more of that. And just seeing what you do with it, because there's been stuff I've seen on there that I then suggest to like my sister when she bakes or does something, because she has her own baking business and all that. So when I see you doing stuff, I'm like, okay, she's because I know how you are, and I know you've got a method to everything you do, and you like, you might research something or think of something before you do it. So it's been cool, that process, for you, just as a friend. And I'm sure you've gotten support from places that you're like, I didn't think you were even paying attention to anything I was doing.
Absolutely. Even people from you guys, I think both know her, Heather Rose. I can't remember her last name, but she was at Nike. She was one of the managers for a while. I hadn't talked to her.
Yeah.
And she out of the blue said, "Hey, I really enjoy watching your recipes. I'm going to make this tonight," and like called one of them out. And I'm like, wow, that's like really cool. Thank you for letting me know. And that's just like, I posted something the other day just about a coworker reaching out and saying, "Hey, I see you working hard and it's much appreciated," kind of thing. And I think just kind of to just end this on a high note, if you see somebody working hard, or if you see somebody doing something that you appreciate, or that even if it's something that you don't understand, but you see them, let them know. It doesn't hurt you at all to just reach out and say, "Hey, I see you. Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing," because those little few words are going to go way further than you would ever imagine. Just like hearing, and I'm sure you too, Ren, you get in comments and stuff from people that you wouldn't expect. It means so much to hear that you're really impacting people where you didn't think you were going to. So.
Yeah, it was weird. It still trips me out sometimes, because I don't think you have to make all this content in this episode or in whatever episode you're doing, and you you move to the next thing, and then somebody comes along and says something about something you did 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, and you're like, I didn't even think that meant anything when I said it, and now it's like somebody took it and it resonated with them. So it means a lot. Because it's not an easy thing to put yourself out there in general, but I think in doing so, it's made me a much better person, because excuse me, when I first started doing this, or when I first, I was unemployed. I was probably more depressed than I had been since I stopped playing basketball when I was in college. And I didn't know like what the next move was. Taylor was doing everything she could to like keep me in good spirits. And like, I wasn't, like down in the dumps, laying in bed all day, like that kind of depressed, but I think everyone wears it differently. And for me, it was just soldier on and don't let anybody see you hurting. And once I figured out that no one is going to show me love unless I show them love, I was like, okay, so now I need to be a more positive person. I need to tell people like, hey, I see what you're doing. Like you said, I appreciate what you're doing, and you putting yourself out there, it means something. And, don't think that nobody's watching, because at least I'm paying attention. So it definitely has done wonders for me, and made me definitely a lot better person, because I wasn't putting as much positive energy out there for people as I should have been. And it's made the positive energy I get back, increase that much more. So it's
what goes around comes around.
That's right.
100%. And like that makes me think of like we talked about earlier, support, and just supporting someone, and even if it's just a few words, encouraging them. Like you said, it makes a huge difference. That could be the difference in someone's day. Can turn it around in just those few sentences. And so, just supporting, I think, is huge. I think it's a big deal. Any chance you get, I think. Just supporting and lending a helping hand or encouraging word, I think is huge. And then, like you said, putting whatever you're looking for out there, and getting it back in some ways. And like, also, if you're looking for something, you want to make sure you're that thing first. So if you're looking for love, make sure you're putting out love. You know what I mean? And hopefully that gets returned back to you. So I'm definitely a big believer in that, and supporting and all of that too. So definitely.
100%.
Well said. It's very well said. And that's been kind of the coolest part about this whole thing, is seeing where I mean, I also say like Nike Portland alum. I mean, I think that whole group is so special. I think seeing where everybody's at now.
Right.
I mean, y'all remember, like, I don't know, Crysta, if you work with Lulu, she's a dentist now. She has her own office. That's so crazy. Like, that's awesome.
Yep.
So
yeah, as you look back and see what everyone's doing from those days, like I don't think we didn't understand who we had in the room with us at the time, but there are some special people from that time.
Absolutely. And all successful in their own rights. And it's amazing to see, amazing to hear about. Like, I don't know, so proud to be from, that group, you know what I mean? So,
right.
Good times.
That's very well stated, because you never know like what it's going to look like 5-6 years from that moment. Because I mean, the last time I worked there was in like 2016, right? So now seeing where everybody's kind of fanned out to and what they're doing, I'm just proud as hell to say that I was a part of that. And like there were days where you come into that place and you don't want to be there, but it was never because of the people that were standing next to you. It was always because of something else. So just being a part of that. Anybody who's listening, if you're a Nike Portland alum, you have a standing offer, you can come on here anytime you want to and talk about whatever you want. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're family. We've been through, like weird, crazy stuff together, working at that place. So I know some of y'all that haven't worked in that kind of environment or in that store don't necessarily know what we're talking about. But it was really like a big family. There was some people in the family you really didn't want to spend as much time with, but that's normal, like any other family, right? Like that uncle, whoever, you're like, okay, I know he's going to say something wild and piss me off, but if we're fighting, I'm still going to have his back at the end of the day.
It was all love, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. But yeah, it was just thinking back, like some of the best times. And like you said, there's days, we're human. We didn't feel like being there. But I think, like you said, the people standing next to us and the people we worked with, like, they made it better. So you couldn't really, really, really have a super bad day for too long working at that store, because somebody's trying to lift up your spirits, make you laugh, do something stupid, like, So, man, good time.
Yeah. And I just go back to, like, I didn't necessarily know that I was still going to be in touch with some of these people, at this point, or reconnect with people at this point. But it takes me back to the Maya Angelou quote of, people might not remember your name, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel. And it's just like, you're at a 18, 19, 21 years old at a retail job. We were all a little wild at the time, but like, we're all cool people, and it allows us to reconnect at this point in our life and look back at that in positive regards. If you're just not really paying attention to how you're treating people at that time, then these kinds of things don't happen. So
exactly.
Facts, as they say, as the kids say, facts. I guess that's New York people. That's not even kids. They're like, facts, B. What does that even mean? I don't know. We gotta find somebody from New York and ask them what B means, because I still to this day don't know.
Ask Flowers.
That's funny you say that, because I'm gonna ask him real soon. So I'll have that conversation with him. I'll make sure to ask him that in our conversation, because that is going to be a very interesting hour and some change when I talk to him. So I'll definitely ask him what B means.
Can't wait for that one.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a very sneakers heavy episode, I'm sure. Because I think Kyle likes shoes a little bit. So, will you ladies have any final words before we wrap this up?
I guess I just want to thank you, Ren, for having Crysta and I on and giving us more of a platform to talk about women in sports and gender equality and all of that. Like we talked about before, it's all about just starting and supporting, and you're doing just that. So, I hope people see what you're doing and are able to follow in your footsteps or do something similar, just to help support and get the word out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Man, you said it perfectly. Like, thank you, Ren, for having us on and giving us the space to, for people to hear our voices and our experience. I think it's huge. Honored to be on. So proud of you as a friend for what you're doing and supporting and not just talking the talk, but like we talked about, walking the walk and putting action to words. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled that both of you ladies took time on a Friday evening to join me. I don't know if it's COVID that pushed you guys to not have anything to be doing right now at 5:30 on a Friday, but I'm humbled that you guys joined me. So I really appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, I could not think of two better ladies to have conversations about these topics and to just, speak your truth and put it out there for people. So thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to the end of episode 35. But if you can't see this, we all have social media. So if you want to find Crysta, you can find her at Crysta with a C, Olivia on Instagram. You can find Meredith at, I'm going to try to say this correctly, Miezbees12.
There you go.
That's MIEZBEEZ12. And if you don't know how to find me on Instagram yet, I don't know what you're doing, because you're obviously listening to this podcast. So I don't know how you're looking at any of the marketing material for it, but I digress. Your Stereotypical Podcast is how you can find me on YouTube. I'm not even going to say me, excuse me. Your Stereotypical Podcast is how you can find us, all of us, anybody who's been a part of this show, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and any other platform we're on. So I just, again, want to say thank you, ladies, for joining me. I hope you guys all kind of, got something out of this episode and can take this out into the world and help improve athletics for ladies, from 5 years old all the way up to the pro level. So thank you so much. That'll wrap it up for episode 35. And I appreciate you listening.